Okay, so today we're going to be talking about metacognition for music learning. So metacognition is a term that is used in a variety of educational fields, but today we're going to apply it to music learning. So what is metacognition? So metacognition is thinking about thinking or becoming aware of your own thought processes. There are 9 components of metacognition that we will go into detail on a few of them, but they are: the learner is increasingly self-aware, they are able to exert control over personal thought processes, they can engage in self-regulation, they are independent in learning tasks, they can apply learning strategies, they can monitor their own progress, they can modify learning strategies, they can reflect on learning, and they engage in self-evaluation. So there are 3 types of metacognitive knowledge that students should be able to monitor and do things that we talked about in the previous slide. The first type of knowledge is declarative knowledge. So that's when there's knowledge about something, when learners know about themselves as learners. They possess declarative metacognitive knowledge about themselves. So that means like just knowing information about something, not even knowing how to apply it, but just knowing about it. Procedural knowledge is knowledge of how to do something, as a student is able to learn how they learn. And conditional knowledge, knowing when and how to apply strategy. So these 3 types of knowledges can be combined and applied in metacognitive knowledge, which we'll talk about later. So specifically metacognition for music learning. So this involves the acquisition of knowledge in different domains. So there's 3 different domains of music learning that these can be applied to. So the first is the cognitive domain. Music learners must acquire content knowledge, such as times, beats per measure, how much each note is worth, stuff like that. Psychomotor domain, musics must acquire the motor skills and ability to focus on the end product of playing or singing well. So this means like how to move your fingers on the keyboard, how to play the pedal, other types of music learning. Affective domain, which is the knowledge of appropriate performance practices, as well as the understanding of musical expression, how to change the tone of your notes, stuff like that. We want students to have a reflective use of metacognition. This means that students reflect on their thinking before, during, and after the process. So self-regulation in music learning is the self-generated thoughts and feelings or actions that are planned and cyclically adapt to the attainment of personal goals. So students are able to observe their own learning processes. They're able to think about what they want to happen. During the performance, they are able to change it, and at the end, they're able to evaluate what they did. So one way that teachers can implement this in their lessons is when you introduce a new skill, ask the students to tell you the procedures that they will take to accomplish this new learning skill. You can ask students to explain one musical goal they have for each week after each lesson. Self-reflection in music learning. Self-reflective learners acknowledge mistakes and remember important points in their learning experiences and make connections among past learning experiences. So there are 5 types of self-reflection, and you can read more if you want to pause this video and read all of them. But they have to do with the student being able to acknowledge when a learning task has been completed. They can examine what they used, they considered what happened, why it happened, and they can see what they need to change to get a different result. So a teaching tip is at the beginning of the year, require students to bring a notebook and each have the student write reflective journals throughout the year or have practice logs to listen and see, and they can reflect on what they did. And then self-evaluation in music learning. Self-evaluation is when metacognitive learners develop the ability to evaluate themselves rather than being solely dependent on the feedback from teachers. As students become more skilled, they're able to anticipate what the teacher would say during their lesson and apply it outside of their lesson. So learners judge their work against past performance, pre-existing standards, or criteria that are set in place by teachers. So 2 students can record performances that they have access to listen back, and they can do their own critique based on what they think that their teacher would say. And so in here, I've also included 2 resources for teachers: the practice log, which can be an example of self-regulation to show what the student needs to be doing, as well as an evaluation to see how the student thinks they're doing. So again, this topic is really interesting and it'd be exciting for people to look more into it, but this is just an intro to self-metacognition in music learning.